email scams, this is really applicable to all of those. So Craigslist, I love Craigslist. It's a really great place, but you want to be careful. You want to be cautious. Anybody can sign up and use it, and so there's a whole range of, people who are legit and then people who are just trying to make a quick buck and scam. So avoiding scams online, specifically looking at Craigslist. So these are some of the things you want to watch out for. If the landlord asks for payment, for a security deposit without a lease in place, that's a big red flag for us. And in general, we would say, if you're looking at a house, pictures online, and if you see a for sale sign in front of that house in any of the pictures, that's a big red flag. And really, any advertisements that say urgent or you need to follow up immediately or you need to hop on this deal quickly is probably going to be a scam. Not always, but it's probably a good sign to just avoid some of those advertisements. You also want to watch out if the monthly payment for that rental unit is much cheaper in comparison to other homes in the area with a similar number of bedrooms and in a similar area. So, for example, if there was a advertisement on Craigslist and it was, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bath, single family home in the Belmont area for $350 a month, that would be a big red flag, because renting in that part of the city might be more like $1,200, $1,300 a month for something similar to that. Okay, so if the landlord asks for fees or rent in cash only, that's also a sign you want to be paying them with check or money order or certified check, cashier's check, something where it's not cash. So basically, you want to, if you see an advertisement, everything looks good, you try to meet up with this person to view the house. If they don't have keys to get into the house, that's a big sign. That's a red flag. So you need access to the inside of that house before you sign on the dotted line or you pay any kind of money for this unit. Okay. So, some more examples. So if you see any advertisements that say that the landlord is out of the country, but they'll mail you the keys in exchange for wired money, or if the landlord states they're not in the country or they're not currently in the state, but they're going to have a friend show you around the property, that's also a very common scam that we've seen on Craigslist and other places. And so basically someone has just noticed that a house is empty, maybe it has that for sale sign, and they don't have access to the inside of the house, but they take pictures. They might know the person who actually owns the house, but it's not there. Then they put the ad on Craigslist, and then they say, "Hey, I'm a friend of the landlord, and I'm going to show you around the property." We would say, just be very, very, very careful when you're looking at any online advertisements for housing. Okay. So, let's say that you've gotten through that hurdle, you've found through either word of mouth, friends, family, you've found a rental unit and you're going to talk to the landlord. So, of course, you want to be honest and upfront with the landlord about your criminal background check, especially if they're going to be running that background check. If you are turned down, if that application is denied, don't stress. You never know if a couple months down the line or even a couple weeks later they give you a call and say, "Hey, I want to meet again and talk this out and accept the application," because you never know if they'll find someone to rent that unit out. Let's see. Some other tips for talking to a landlord If the issue comes up, you want to explain what and how you made a mistake in the past. So there are lots of stereotypes surrounding ex-offenders and misdemeanors and felonies. So, you want to explain what was the mistake, how you made the mistake, and how it's in your past. So definitely want to make a good first impression. So ask questions about the property, pay attention to details, maintain eye contact with the landlord, dress nicely, and have a firm handshake. So I sort of picked up some of these tips at this website, so helpforfelons.org, and we'll also be putting this on the resource list. So when you're looking at rental housing, being neat and clean when you go, bring pen and paper so you can take notes, lots of notes, especially if you're viewing more than one unit on the same day. Bring your camera, bring a phone to take pictures. Again, for the same reason, you want to be able to be like, if you see 3 or 4 units in the same day or within 2 days, it's like they all blur together. So having pictures, having notes so that oh, this was this house and there was that issue with this other place, and so you can distinguish between all of them. Bring along a friend or a family member so you don't miss anything good or bad about the rental unit. They can point some things out because they aren't as emotionally attached to finding and getting the rental unit as you would be. So questions that you want to talk to the landlord after you view the property. How much is the monthly rent? Biggest question out there, right? And so other things, are the utilities going to be included in the monthly rent amount that you just gave me, or do I have to pay the utilities separate? How much is the security deposit? When do you want to have the security deposit paid? What are the conditions that you get the security deposit back at the end of your lease? You want to make sure that you know up front, it has to be spick and span, or, we have to do this, this, and this, and this, and then we'll get our security deposit. So how long is the lease? Is it going to be 6 months? Is it a 12-month lease? 18 months? Is this lease going to be month to month? Meaning that you can terminate the lease every 30 days, or the landlord could do that as well. So what are the lease terms? How long is it going to last? When do I have to give you notice when I'm going to renew the lease? Things like that. Also, another really big question, who pays for the maintenance of the unit? Who's going to be responsible for any repairs? If you're working with a property management company, a lot of times they take on that responsibility. But if you're working with a private landlord, they may split all of the repairs, or they may say, you know what, you're responsible for changing the light bulbs, you're responsible for maintaining the light fixtures, so if something happens, you have to replace it. But then they may take care of the larger things like plumbing repairs, toilets, the heat pump. But then again, it may be split the other way. So you want to make sure you know who's responsible and when you have to report that once you've noticed something going on. You also want to know if there are going to be any community rules that you have to be aware of, and what the policy is on guests, what noise level is acceptable, and what the hours of that noise level can be. What can you do for common areas and things like that. You also want to be aware of when is the rent due. Is it going to be the 1st, the 10th, the 15th, the 20th? When do they want you to send that check in? When is it considered late? How much are the late fees? Are there laundry facilities on site? Do you have to buy a washer and dryer, or is the washer and dryer included in the unit? Is that an option, maybe an upgrade for another unit? And then does the unit come with a parking spot? What are the parking policies? Do you have to buy a sticker showing that you live at this apartment? All those good things. So in the state of Virginia, the landlord can charge no more than 2 months' rent for your security deposit. Okay? And like I said earlier, application fees can run anywhere from $25 to $150 per adult. Everybody has a different fee requirement, and it's for different things, and you definitely want to talk to them. Maybe the $150 for application is a lot of money. And so maybe that $150 covers 3 adults, up to 3 adults. But maybe another place might say it's $25 per adult, and if you have 3 adults who are applying for this one unit, then that's, $75 right there. Most application fees are going to be non-refundable because they're used for the criminal background check and the credit. They're going to pull a credit report more than likely, especially if you're working with a property management company. A lot of private landlords will have application fees because they're going to run a criminal background check and a credit report. They might have you do your own credit check. They might have you check your credit report somewhere and give them a copy, but most of them are going to do, if they have application fees, it's going to be for a criminal background check and or that credit report check. So, leasing requirements, we sort of touched on this. So, if you're looking at some units, there may be age restrictions. There are certain places in Charlottesville that you have to be like 62 years old or older. You also may not be allowed to have children under 18 years old. Those are very specific communities that have been planned that way, but there also may be, I know there are some units that you are either 62 years or older, or you have a disability or permanently disabled. Income restrictions may apply for certain units. Again, a lot of this is going to be for property managers and not private landlords. But maybe a private landlord has income restrictions, like we said earlier. They may require that you have 3 times the rent as your monthly gross income, so what you make before taxes. Some places are going to be market rent, so it's a certain amount every month, either set by the state or set by that landlord. But then you may also get lucky and get into a place where you only pay 31% of your gross income, and that means that the rental unit that you are renting has a Section 8 voucher attached to the unit. It won't, the Section 8 voucher won't travel with you, but it's attached to that apartment that you might be renting. So there are other things called housing choice vouchers. That's the type of Section 8 voucher that you take with you and go from place to place. But again, a lot of these have restrictions on based on background checks. So if there's any felonies, any drug-related use, violence, you may not be eligible to receive a housing choice voucher or to rent where there's a Section 8 voucher in that rental unit where you get to pay the 31% of your gross income and then the federal government pays the rest. So depending upon your situation, you may or may not be eligible for the housing choice voucher or the Section 8 voucher that's attached to a specific rental unit. Okay. So the lease, so we're going to talk about the lease, the actual document. It's the most important part of the housing search. You want to make sure you read it over every section, ask questions if you don't understand a section. Private landlords have quirky things that they can throw in there, like, you're not allowed to do lawn maintenance. They have to hire someone. Or they may say in the lease that you have to do the lawn maintenance and you're allowed to hire out if you want. So make sure there are no blank spaces when you sign that lease, and ask any questions. Once you sign, it's yours, and you have to follow the rules that are set out in that lease.